All right. So at one point or another in your fitness journey, you will have to transition from dieting to a maintenance phase or a growth phase, one way or another, right? You've lost the fat. Now, what do you do? Because you cannot diet forever. And people who have been dieting forever probably have not lost the weight that they want to lose because you cannot chronically diet and see results long term. So, what do you do once you've lost the fat? What do you do? So, um, fat loss and growth both require opposite signals from the body. So again, you can't diet forever and expect your body to grow and recover from that. So when you're in a fat loss state, you are in a scarcity, not maybe not a scarcity mindset, but you're in a scarcity place from a calorie standpoint. And your body's wanting to conserve as much of that body fat as it can hang on to. That's why losing fat is typically tough for a lot of people. And then if we look at a growth phase where you add on some muscle tissue, the body sees that as a very safe place because there is an abundance of food. There is no danger of starvation. So it kind of sees growth as like the summertime where it's warm and the butterflies are out flying around, and the fat loss is the cold winter to where things are grim, right? Um, if you stay in that diet mode forever, that's going to block your progress. And again, that's why people who chronically diet are having to continue chronically dieting forever because they just won't get out of that very low deficit and actually, let the body thrive for once. And so you can't just flip that switch. You can't go from you just lost 30 pounds, your diet ended yesterday, and you're going to jump straight into a surplus today. Just does not work like that. Jumping straight from a deficit to a huge surplus can actually backfire on you pretty good. At this point in time, if you have been dieting for a while, let's say anything over 12 to 16 weeks, and you haven't had any kind of, refeed days, any kind of higher calorie days, any days return to maintenance, you're going to have some metabolic adaptation occur there. So your metabolism is suppressed after a period of dieting. Your hunger signals are going to be dysregulated, like your leptin and your ghrelin. Those are going to be way off to where they need to be. So you may think that you quote unquote need a lot of food, or you're just hungry. So you must feed the body, give it what it wants. But at that point in time, those signals are just all over the place, and they're 9 times out of 10 lying to you. Stress hormones, are going to be elevated, such as cortisol. Dieting in itself is a stressor. The body does not, you know, dictate what kind of stress you're going through, and it changes the way that it views stress in accordance to that. So, for instance, your body does not see the stress that you receive from training, from cardio, from the mental side of things, from you being late to work, to your boss is mad, whatever the case may be. Those are all, it's either a stressor or it's not to the body. So these stress hormones are going to be elevated if you just got out of this deficit phase. Um, and then, kind of in turn, all of that combined, you could see some pretty rapid fat regain if you just flip that switch and go from dieting to a surplus. For instance, a very great example of this is if you're in a contest prep scenario, your food is very low, your cardio is very high, your stress is very high, your output from exercise expenditure to cardio expenditure to step count, all that stuff is very high, and then you just flip the script. You think, well, now the show is over. My cardio's, I'm not going to do that anymore. My step count, I don't really care about that anymore. My workouts, they don't have to be too intense anymore. And then the food, yeah, I'm hungry. I deserve to eat. You literally are doing the exact opposite of what you just did 2 days ago. It's not going to go well for you. You might can get by with it for 2 or 3 days of just doing whatever the heck that you want to do, and then after that, like, it's going to catch up to you pretty quick. I know a dude that I used to be not that I used to be friends with, but I haven't seen this individual in years. He did a show, and 6 days later, he was 30 pounds over what he was the day of contest prep or the day that he stood on stage. He just could not handle his eating, and he wasn't doing any kind of cardio to mitigate it. Was not drinking enough water. Like there was just a number of things that he did that contributed to him gaining, you know, th 30 pounds essentially. And a lot of it was body fat. It was. He wasn't a client of mine. I just know the individual, but I do know his coach, and he was telling me that it was rough. Just trying to get him mentally to stop eating. Well, it was a hard thing. And when your hunger signals are, dysregulated, like it's tough to do, but at some point you just kind of have to get away from the environment. You can't overeat the McDonald's if you don't pull into McDonald's, right? Like you just kind of have to put yourself in a favorable position to not let this rapid fat regain happen. And so the goal of this transition phase, which is what you should be doing, is going from a fat loss phase into a transitional phase, and then into either, a maintenance phase or a growth phase, whatever the case may be. The key goal during this phase is recovery. The goal is not muscle gain yet. The goal is to get you to a place to where your body feels safe, essentially. So we're trying to restore that, metabolic output. Keep in mind your metabolism has been adapted down if you've been dieting for a long time. So we need to get that back up to where it needs to be. Your, hunger signals are all over the place, and we need to get those back normalized. And then also your digestion is probably off a little bit too. So again, those need to be back in line as well too. We can see or should see and improved training bouts, as we go, further along this. Like, yes, food is going to go up, and that's going to, help your training as well too, but getting you in a more, um, I don't want to say like maintenance driven style workout because that's really, not even a thing. But, just going from the extremes of like, a ton of cardio, several hours in the gym a day to get it to a more, sustainable place to where like, again, your body feels safe, rested, relaxed, things of that nature. And then we just also need to have, those lower stress hormones, the cortisol, lowered before you start, adding in food and pushing for growth. Because if you have high cortisol, um, yeah, I mean, anything that you try to do from fat loss to muscle gain to, I mean, really any kind of change that you want to make in your body is going to be an uphill battle if that cortisol just constantly stays elevated. And again, that's why people who chronically diet all the time, they have high cortisol. That's why it's hard for them to lose body fat in that chronically dieted state. So what should change first? You're going from a fat loss phase into a transitional phase and then into a growth phase. What should change first? So first and foremost, calories should go up, but not everything should go up at one time. So what we should look at doing here is keeping your protein stable. So, a good rule of thumb is zero point 0.8 to 1.2 grams per pound of body weight is a good place to keep your protein at, and you should keep that stable at all times. Now granted, unless you're doing like a refeed and things like that, to where that you can manipulate those things, but that is just like a 1 or 2 day thing. Main goal, keep your protein stable here. And then you can increase some carbs along with some fats as well too. I would honestly, tend to increase carbohydrates first, and then maybe add in some fats along the way. Maybe a 70-30 split, 60-40, like more carb based, but some fats as well too. And the main thing with that is going to be your hormones. Especially if you're an individual who's not, having to take, hormone replacement therapy, HRT, TRT, things like that. If you are an individual who takes that kind of stuff, you can get away with having a lower fat content, just because it doesn't affect your hormones because you're getting it exogenously, right? You're actually having help from an outside source to, not not produce the hormones for you, but just give it to you, right? So, but if you're not an individual who's on HRT, TRT, anything like that, keeping those fats, a little more elevated during this time is going to help, regain some of that hormonal function as well too. Now, as far as cardio goes, um, you should reduce some cardio. Like if you're doing, 5 days a week, 20, 30 minutes at a time, maybe cut that in maybe half. So go to like, if you're doing 5 times 30, do like 5 times 15, right? And then again, you could even, group that into like, 3 days a week, give or take somewhere in there. But, at the end all be all, let's see, let me cut this off. That needs to be um, tapered down as well too, because again, we're trying to get the body into a rested and relaxed state, and if we have high cardio, then the body is not seeing that as a well rested and relaxed state. That's why if you see, if you're a client of mine who has a refeed day, a high calorie day, you'll notice that nine times out of 10, those higher calorie days are going to be purely rest days. Cardio is going to be pulled out, steps are going to be pulled down as well too, and no working out, because again we're trying to get that body back to a safe space, I guess is the best way to put that. And if you're adding in extra fatigue from added in cardio, a workout day, that's obviously not helping you from a fatigue standpoint. So you will have certain signs that the body is ready to grow. So, your biofeedback should improve before you push calories higher, right? Now, for granted, you're going to push calories up to a degree to get you back to your maintenance phase, but don't go over and beyond on those calories additions until all your biometric feedback shows improvement, right? So your sleep needs to be improved. Your hunger signaling needs to, normalize out. You're not ravenous, that you're eating any and everything that you come across, and you're not, your appetite isn't dead, to the point to where like you're not hungry at all. Like have it to where like you're, 5 out of 10 on the hunger scale, right? Your body temp is going to rise throughout the day, and you guys know who were on the call a few weeks ago, kind of how body temp, should rise throughout the day, as you eat food and just go about your day. If you haven't watched that, that was 3, 4 weeks ago, maybe, so go check that out. Your training performance should rebound as well too. If you were, obviously as you get, deeper and deeper into a cut, body weight is going down, food is going down, fatigue is going up. Training typically takes a little bit of a dip as well too, but that should start to come back up with more food as well too. And then just overall less inflammation and less water retention as well too. And again, that kind of goes back to cortisol. If you can keep that cortisol lower, you're going to have less inflammation and less water retention as well too. So a few common mistakes that I see during this transition is people rush it. People undo months of progress at this point in time right here. You just did 16 to 20 weeks or even longer than that of dieting, and you were so impatient once that fat loss phase got done that you took months off of your progression. A lot of people have the mindset of, well, I earned this. I may have a different stance than a lot of people on this, or the average person, but I'm not sure that you did earn it. Not from the fact that you did, put in the work to get you to this point, but the 20, 30 years of you overeating, and then it took us, 16 to 24 weeks to get you back to a pretty good spot. Like, you know, you kind of overdid it 20, 30 years beforehand, right? So like you earned it mindset. Like I can see, having a meal here or there to like, I earned this, whatever kind of thing, like a celebratory thing, but it should not be oh, I earned this. Let me go get a Starbucks 4 days out of the week. Let me, swing by McDonald's kind of thing. Like if you get in that mindset, then you are going to backtrack your progress very, very quickly. Um, Too much flexibility, too fast. I still believe in, keeping people to a pretty structured routine. Maybe if you have like 4 meals during the day, meal one, two, three should be very structured, very, rigid. And then meal four can have some flexibility to it, like counting macros, but just giving somebody a set of macros, who has just come out of a fat loss phase. If they cannot control, those hunger signals and things like that is not a good idea. They'll fill their macros with Pop Tarts, with chips, with drinks. I mean, just all kind of stuff. Not good whole foods, right? And then again, they drop that structure completely. They get done with the fat loss phase. They start skipping their cardio. They start skipping their steps. Their workouts in the gym aren't as good. Like they just slowly start to miss things, and these things add up. And then again, if you're an individual who's like trying to gain muscle mass, they chase the scale weight instead of a performance. And I've been guilty of that too. I've been trying to chase a number forever, it seems like. But once I got it out of my head that, hey, we're going for a certain look, not a certain number. And that could go, for fat loss too. You'll be much better off to just focus on progressing and seeing the body change instead of, being worried about a number. Well, oh, at the end of this cut phase, how much weight should we aim to lose? And nine times out of 10, it's a guess. I'm like, maybe 10, 15, 20, 30 pounds. Like, I don't know. We're going for a look, right? Like, I don't care if you lose 10 pounds or if it's 30 pounds. If you like the way that you look, that's all that matters to me. Who cares about a scale, right? At the end of the day, if you chase the scale and worried about what the scale says instead of how you're looking and how other metrics are, you know, either getting better or getting worse in some people's case, that's the main thing that you need to be worried about is things outside of the scale, like your progress pictures, your biometric feedback. Measurements are a great way to, look at that too. And then so if we're looking at what a smart growth phase actually looks like, so it's boring. It is. Growth is slow, it's controlled, and it's boring. And that's honestly a good thing, though. So we're looking at doing small calorie increases over weeks and weeks out of time. A lot of the times changes are being made based off of strength and recovery. If your strength is going up in the gym and you're, adequately recovering, there's no need to change anything. If you're getting stronger in the gym, that's a great sign that, muscle tissue is being added on, to some degree. Weight gain should be gradual and it should be intentional. If you're a natural athlete, anything from, a half a pound to a pound is a great indicator. Now this is going to vary based on, body weight and things like that. But for general, half a pound to a pound week after week is a great indicator. And then for some folks, it could be even a touch higher than that, but kind of toward that half a pound, slightly creeping up to a pound each and every week, specifically for males, is kind of a good indicator that things are, going as they should. And then structure, obviously stays in place. Like your maintenance, your bulking phases, your, everything else phases outside of the fat loss phase should be taken just as serious as the fat loss phase. And because if you don't treat all the other phases as serious as the fat loss phase, and then once you get into the fat loss phase, it's going to be harder for you. So if you're more dedicated and more strict year round with every phase that you may go through, it's going to be a heck of a lot easier on you on the back end when you hop into that fat loss phase. And then at that point, if the structure stays in place, and then more flexibility can be earned. Like I have some individuals in the program now who we're eating 4 to 5,000 calories a day, and they can afford to, macro swap things here and there. Things that they enjoy eating because there's a ton of food in there. But if you don't take the time to build those calories up the right way, then you, in my opinion, just haven't earned the flexibility. So, it's just kind of a give or take in that standpoint. So if you do this right, you will not ever need another aggressive cut, right after this. A lot of people go through the fat loss phase and they go into a bulking phase, and just to keep things blunt, they get fat. They do. I gained 30, 40 pounds in this off season, man. Like I probably gained a lot of muscle. Probably didn't. You probably added on a ton of water, a ton of body fat. And your next dieting phase is now going to be a lot harder because you did not take the bulking as serious as you did the fat loss phase, right? But if you can keep everything in check, do what you need to do, and be as dedicated and detailed to this phase as the fat loss phase, so you'll see better muscle gain, less fat spillover. You won't get as fat easy, healthier hormones as well too. And then again, easier future fat loss phases. I will say that as I've gone through this journey myself, for instance, like, the very first contest that I've ever done, that was one of the hardest ones that I've ever had to do because I had never dieted before. I had never knew how to stick to a strict meal plan. It was a lot of first for me, right? The last one that I did, um, and the one that I obviously had my best look ever, was the easiest one that I've ever had in my life. Because I set myself up for, progress after each and every one. I did not gain 20, 30 pounds in a week, right? I kept everything tight. I kept everything of how I needed it to be done. And I set myself up for a very easy fat loss phase. Like I said, the last one that I did, super easy. I mean, it was the easiest thing and this is not a brag or a gloat, but it was probably the easiest fat loss phase that I've ever done. And I dropped 40 pounds and it was easy. I had no problem doing it. So like again, set yourself up for progression, um, and things will follow suit. So, anybody got any questions with that or anything to add to that at all? At all? Anybody?
I won't say that I have any questions, but I will say that like being in a more surplus stage, it definitely is like something that I have to remember is to like not not get a little like careless with it because obviously like I think a few weeks ago you even had to tell me like cut back on the free meals because
Yep.
I I can very easily forget that I need to like to keep it within mind. So
Yeah. I mean, and it's something that I have to tell myself all the time too. I mean, I'm eating 45 to 5,000 calories a day. So I could have, if I could go eat one or two, two or three cheat meals a week, my wife would probably, enjoy it too. But I mean, I keep myself very limited and in line with, what's realistic, and what's in alignment with my goal as well too. I would like to go to the Mexican restaurant 2 or 3 times a week and eat chips and dips until, I have to unbutton my pants to get out of there. But that's not getting me anywhere closer to my goal. So, it's kind of is what it is. You just have to
yeah,
be in tune with yourself and just make sure that, the actions that you're doing on a daily basis are intentional to the goal that you have. So, um, if you're an individual who wants to drop 20, 30 pounds, but you send your check-in late, you send it every other week, you're not entering your daily weight, you're not following your meal plan, you're 7 out of 10 on your meal plan, you're skipping steps, you're skipping cardio. What do you expect? I'm not a I'm not a miracle worker. So, and there's some people in the group that I think expect that. Um, you got to put in your part too. So, but outside of that, anybody else have anything to add to that? Well, if not, I'll let you guys go a few minutes early today. It's not as warm as it is outside today, so but I think it will still be a good day to go get steps in outside. So,
oh, yeah.
um, nonetheless, hope you guys have a great day. Any questions at all, please reach out. And I'll talk to you guys soon.